Hello everybody. In this demonstration I'm going to show you how to throw a plate. You do need 4 pounds of recycled clay. Our maximum height, so a maximum, this is the first time I've ever had a max, is 2 inches. And then your width, your minimum width is about 10 that you're going for. So I'm going to take this, again it's a lot of clay, it's just double the amount that you needed for your bowl, so it will feel like a ton of clay to be able to throw. Throw that back down on top of here. Get this going. This one's just a little bit different because you're not going to really do a lot of pulling on this one like you did the other ones. This is making a plate. So hands nice and slippery, you know, rubber sticky. Push it down on here. Hands are dry already. Get them wet again. Push it down on here again. I lean my body over so I can get my upper body weight down on here so I can push this down. Push this down again. Okay. Now with this one, notice how uneven it is. We don't have to center this one at this stage yet. We want to keep flattening this down into a pancake. Okay. So again, I'm going to push my hand down. Okay. Now I'm starting to get this little overhang. You can see the shadow that's inside of there. I do need to take care of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my hand, like I'm dry chopping. Here, I'm going to push it down, and I'm going to slide this. I'm going to start pushing this down like I'm centering it. You know, where you have the cry chop, and you slide it into that praying position. Okay. This hand is also now going to start pushing in because now we are centering this. So I'm pushing this in. Both hands are working hard, keeping this nice and tight. So now that's centered. I'm really forcing this thumb in when I push this hard, really pushing that in, okay? This is way too thick. Then I push it down. Now I'm going to try to keep this as even as I can as I pull this across. So you want to make sure this is a nice flat pancake and like a nice disc across here. This also is one you will leave a little thicker than that ½ inch. You're looking at more for like 3/4 of an inch or even an inch thick would be fine. So let's just kind of even go for an inch thick on this right now. I'm going to still push down with that bone that you keep talking about in your hand. And I'm going to pull this towards myself nice and slow. You got to give it time. And if you notice, when you push down the center, you have to push really hard. But as you come out to the outside, you don't push nearly as hard. You're not forcing as much clay off to the side. This thumb is still real important. It's still pushing in. I'm going to kind of go over top of this like this. So thumb is right here, pushing in. This is centering the top. They both kind of fight with each other. And in the end, there's a tie. And that's when you get that center. I'm going to take this. Again, an A for this project is going to be a width of 10 inches. And I am currently at 9. So I need to take this off a little bit more because it is a little on the thick side. So I'm going to push down. And your lip, when you pull your lip out, you will get some more width out of that, which we're going to be doing here. Okay. So now my thickness of my, so I am at 3/4 of an inch. So I do not want to go any thinner than that. Okay, so I'm about 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to take my fingers. Now with this one, I'm going to take my right hand, nice and slippery, is I want to put my fingernails against the bat. And then I want to take my hand and slide. So I'm kind of pivoting my knuckles and I'm sliding this in like this. Okay? And I want to go in about 2-3 inches. Keep those nice and tight against that bat. That lifts the clay up. Okay, so I'm at probably about my 2 inches. And next, I'm going to pinch. I'm going to slow this down a little bit. I'm going to pinch, and then I'm going to slowly start bringing up at an angle. This is where you get your 10 inches at. So I'm pinching right here. And I'm slowly, because it takes longer for the clay to go around the entire circumference of that plate. And now I'm at my 10 inches already. Okay. Looking at the side, I actually feel like this is pretty good, but I'm going to go a little bit bigger. You do want your lip to be a little on the thicker side so it can handle, you know, the abuse, you know, that functional pottery like this has. Now we have all this wet slip and clay on the inside here. Take my sponge, slowly go around the outside. and just clean everything up. Okay. Next, we're going to deal with the foot. This one we'll be trimming later on, but we want to have a nice round foot to play with anyways. So I'm going around, cleaning all that off. Again, just about the thickness of this as a whole. Okay, last step, after everything is cleaned off, you need to cut it off of the bat. And there's two ways you can kind of do this. One, you can lift this off, because it gets a little tricky to doing it underneath there. We do it all the time. But you can lift this off and put it on a table and do that, and just make sure the table gets cleaned up. Is I'm going to wrap this along. So think of this as like a long dental floss. Is I'm going to kind of wrap around the fingertips like this. My thumbs are going to go over top of it. I'm going to push down and then pull it towards my body and cut this off. And then you're going to leave it. So I have this together. I'm going to try to do it like that so you can see it a little better. I have it against here. My thumb, look at this thumb right here, my left thumb. It's pushed against the wire, and the wire is against the bat, so it's sandwiched between. And then I want to bring this together. Now I'm going to switch around a little bit to my finger because I can't lift up on this. And pull that all the way across, and it just went through all the way. The nice thing about doing it on the table is you don't have to deal with that as much, and you can leave this on a flat surface, and then be able to kind of cut it off right there. Okay, so I'll show you one more time, just by holding it like this. I'm going to make sure I don't fall. Make sure this doesn't fall. Set this down. It is a lot easier not doing it on the wheel. And just bring that across like that, and you got your piece. Again, this does not get bagged. Put it on your shelf, and then I will, in the morning of the next day, I go around and flip all these, and we're good. So that is the demonstration on the plate. Hello, everybody. This is the second part of our plate demonstration. So this has been sitting for overnight. So I'm going to take off the plastic, and I'm going to see how it is. So I'm feeling it. It is getting drier. There really isn't a ton of give along the side over here. So I feel like I do want to definitely, it's not ready to trim yet, but it is ready to be flipped. So what I do on that is I can take this across, and we'll see if this is even dry enough. I'm going to set this over. I put this about half on the table, half off. I push down on the bat here a little bit to bend the bat. So I just go down, and that kind of cracks it off. And that's why it's so important that you cut it off after you make it, because then that opens up that gap area. So good. So it cracked off enough, but it's still too flimsy. I'm gonna take this cutter one more time, slide it underneath here, and I'm gonna let this sit probably for a couple hours. And then I'm gonna come over, I'm gonna flip this over, and we'll take it from there. Thanks. Okay, now that I have this all dried, I touched this, it's a lot harder now. You don't want it too hard, because then that'll cause other problems. You want this sweet spot where it actually, when you cut it, it actually curls. That's the best time. A little before that's okay, a little bit after that's okay, but you want to kind of be careful with it. So the next thing I want to do is I want to make sure I get a mental idea on how thick this really is, because you're going to be carving the foot out. So within this area somewhere, the foot is there, and we need to take the center out, and we need to take this outside part out. So I'm going to take my middle finger and my thumb. I'm going to pinch along here, and I want to get an idea on how thick this is. So it's about that thick, okay? I'm just going to double check. I really want to get in my head how thick this thing is. And when I come over to help you, I'm going to ask you, show me how thick it is, so that I know how far to take this down. So it's a very important step. Talking about the wheel, it does have these concentric circles, but we're not going to be able to use them for this specific project. because if you made this right, your lips, because this is 10 inches wide, should actually be hitting these screw holes. Okay, so if they are, then you've really got an A for that part of it. If they don't, then you're definitely not at that 10-inch mark, and depending how bad it is, you might not get the points for that. But normally, if you have something smaller, you can just set it right here, and you look at the distance between the edge of your pottery and that next line, and you can set this down in center right away. We can't do that on this one, so we need to be able to get it back. So I'm going to grab this one, relatively clean, and I'm going to set this down, and then I want to get some clay. So I'm going to grab my clay, and it's not a whole lot. It's just recycled clay. You want to make sure the clay is not really soft, but you don't want to make sure it's really hard. If it's too soft, it'll stick to this a little bit too much. But I have this off to the side, and again, it's just about this much. So definitely smaller than a baseball, but you don't need a lot because you're going to make these coils up and you're going to be attaching this. But you got to get this centered first. And the way that you do that is first I'm going to take this off, make sure my wheel is on, turn this, and then I know that it's safe. I've had before students do this, turn it on, and then there goes their plate because this was way too fast. So just make sure you're safe and you're good. So I'm going to turn this on. So it's working. I'm looking at those screw holes again. There's one here and here. So I know right there is I can start trying to get this as centered as I can. So it evenly goes off. It evenly covers, this screw hole and this screw hole. So I think it does. So it'll be close, but not perfect. I'm going to get it going at that speed. Grab my needle tool. I'm going to set it down right here, and I want to make sure that it's nice and flat, as parallel as you can get it. Okay. I'm going to make a little mark here first, though, so I can see that line, and I know that that every time that goes around, I see it hit right here. Right here, it's going around one time. And that's important because you need to make sure that when you make your marks, it has one revolution at least. So I'm going to set this down, keep this nice and level. I'm going to go in. I'm not touching it yet. There it goes once, twice. So I know we're on, and I'm going to go in a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Now you can hear that scratching. So I know I have a line right there. I'm going to shut the wheel off. I'm going to look for that line. Oh, there she is. And it begins here, and it ends about here. So it's almost half. That means that this is really close to being centered. It's not quite centered, but if you have it just like that, you want to do one little tweak on there, and then you're good. I'm going to turn this on just a little bit. So now my beginning and my end are right in front of me. Here's my scratch. So if my marks are a lot smaller, then it's way off center. And that means that this part, because it's scratching here and that on this side, this is closer to you, which means it's farther away from the center. Which means I'm going to put my finger on where it begins and ends, figure out where that center is, and I'm slightly going to push it up just ever so much, a little bit more in that direction. I'm going to turn this back on again. Actually, I'm going to shut it off. Sorry about that. I want to go back. I have a small sponge and a little bit of water. I want to clean that scratch off, so I don't want to get that confused with another scratch. Okay, now it's good. Turn this back on again. It's all the way down, nice and flat. There's my mark, so I know I went around at least once. I'm going to go in a little more. Went around at least once, a little bit more. I barely went in and actually made a full circle, so this is perfect. Normally you won't get that. Try about 2-3 times, and then we're going to be good enough. So you're never going to get it exactly right, kind of thing. So good. Next, I'm going to take this clay. I'm going to roll a coil. The way I roll a coil is I kind of get it between my hands like that. I just slowly go back and forth, and I want to roll something, and I want to keep it not super thin, but I don't want to go and make it really thick. So something like this. This is a little bit thicker than a pencil, and I'm going to have it along the side right there. Next step is going to push in and then down, in and then. And what this does is it will hold it in place so we can trim it. a piece of clay. I usually do about 3 of them or 4 of them, depending on how long they are. Again, I'm holding this in place so it doesn't get away on me. I push in and then down, in and down. Get this so it's right in front of me, it makes it a lot easier. So just a little thicker than a pencil. And this is what holds this in place. Okay, good. Next up, I'm gonna turn this on. I need to find out where the center is at. Again, I'm still, keep in mind, I remember how thick this is, about that thick. And now I need to figure out where the center is on this. Now you always want to work on the right side of the piece. So the part that's always leaving your body. If I work on the left side, it'll catch this, it'll rip this into the plate, and then kind of throw it off to the side. So make sure you're always working on the right-hand side of this. But I want to kind of take a guess on where the center is at, and just go move a little bit to the left. So I have that circle there, right? The dead center in that circle is the center of this plate. And what I'm going to do is I'm looking at here and I'm looking here, and I got to figure out where half is at. So I know half is right here, so I'm going to go just slightly to the right of half. And I'm going to keep that note nice and still. I'm just going to go down like 1/8 of an inch. So it's just a score line. Next, I'm going to look at that line, and I'm going to go 1 inch right of that. So here's 1 inch, push down. This is your foot. You don't want to touch this area again. We want to rip this area out, and we want to rip this area out. And the way that we do that is we go back to your double-ended loop tool, use this side. I do have a new tool that I have a few of them. I don't have a ton of them, but these large loop tools do a nice job on the outside here. So if you have one, you can definitely use that. Otherwise, the entire thing can be done with this. What I'm going to do, I'm going to come down, get comfortable. So hands are right here. Both hands are together on this. I'm going to go in, press down a little bit, and I'm slowly going to start making my way out to the side. Now you can see the way that curls just a little bit, so I know that this is like the perfect stage for this to be trimming. And you got all this kind of excess, which you can kind of put off to the side. A lot of times it just falls inside of your splash pan, which I'm going to show you that. For this project, you definitely want to take that off because it's a lot easier to clean. Do that again. I'm going to press down. And then slowly work your way out to the outside. And then once you hit that foot area, then you stop. Now I want to really make sure I define this line. So I'm actually going to switch I was cutting everything like this, and now I'm actually going to rotate it so it's straight up and down. And I want to go in, and I really want to make sure that I just define that edge. So there's a really good 90-degree cut from the inside here to out there. Now, I would come along and I would say, well, it looks like, oh, you're doing a good job. And I would say, how thick is your plate? You show me, again, that it's about this thick. So I'm going to say, well, make sure you go half of that. This is not there yet. So I'm going to go back in, press down, and again, slowly go on out, trying to get the same pressure the entire time. Go down again. One of my favorite parts is trimming, because it feels just so relaxing having these little strips just come right off your project. As long as you don't go all the way through. That gets kind of frustrating. So you got to make sure you have both. You got to make sure you don't take too much off, but you also got to make sure you take enough off. So again, I'm thinking of this as my top. And that's one thing that's kind of nice about this, is that this is relatively untouched. So I know what the reference is. So again, I'm thinking that I want to be about this thick. It's like, I can go down just a tad bit more. Also, you can sometimes stop it and just lightly press down on here. And you can get an idea, it's like, gosh, that's getting awfully thin, and I should stop right there. So, and normally it's a little bit thicker there than anywhere, or thinner there than anywhere else. So I'm going to go down just a tad bit more. And I'm going to go up. Okay, that part's done. Now I'm going to do this part, and there's a ton of clay here. And I would say 9 times out of 10, students don't get enough of that out. So I'm going to go in, use this one first. I want to make sure I'm kind of holding this in place because it's a little dry out here because it's curling, but it also crumbles a little bit. If you do get this on the floor, just pick it up. These strands can get awfully long sometimes. I'm going back and forth on this. Take that off. I'm going to switch over to this one. And these do have sharp edges. Same thing with the other one. So try this way. If it does seem like it's cutting, flip it and try the other direction. This just makes it go a little faster. Go back to this. I am going to take this one, and again, we're always kind of flat with it. I'm going to flip it so it's parallel, and I want to go in, and I really want to define this line here real quick. So I'm right at that foot, and I stop. And there's a lot of clay here I need to get off now. So I'm just going back and forth. On this. And again, you almost take off more than you think you need. Okay, I'm going to kind of move this off to the side, just so I want to make sure you can hear me, because I can hear the scraping, and I don't know if you can hear me as well. I'm going to go back to this one, just because I want to just take this off a little bit faster, and I'm really rolling this back and forth, and hopefully you can kind of see that as I'm doing this. This should also get rid of all your scratches. This is also, you want to go down like this low, and that's why you want to have those coils you roll. That's why you want to keep them, just a little thicker than a pencil, but then you don't want those massive chunks, because then you can't trim as far down as you should. Okay, now I'm looking at the depth I have here and the depth that I have here. This is still a little on the higher side. And this is usually a lot thicker, so I know I still have a lot of clay here I can take off. And I think I'm going to stop here. I'm going to look at this. I do see that on my foot I do have a little bit of clay built up right here. So I'm going to get this going. I'm going to take this and I'm going to hold it real still and just try to clean that up just a tad bit so it's nice and flat. I can also go back to my double ended loop tool. I can dig in here and just trim this up just a tad bit more so I have a really nice 9-degree angle cut right there. And that one's fine inside there. Okay, I'm going to shut it off again. There we go, nice and clean. Double, now take since I have it like here right now, I'm going to write my name on here. So, last name, and then the year you made it. I'm going to roll these guys up. Carefully lift this up. This has decent weight to it. This has decent weight to it. So I don't feel like it's too thin or too thick. And now I want you to really look at the curve here. And you can see that this is just a really nice shape because you have your foot. We got rid of a ton of clay and it actually looks like a plate. And that's kind of exciting because it actually looks like something that you could actually buy somewhere. I do notice, I have a little bit of a line right here. Hopefully you can kind of see that. I could, if I wanted to, just take this and just gently roll this across and get rid of that line. Because it just pops up just a little bit. There we go. Otherwise, I got all those crumbly things off. This is all set. If you did damage your lip a little bit, try to take care of that. Otherwise, just set this on your shelf unless I tell you otherwise, and clean up your mess. So in terms of cleaning, all of this scrap is going to go in our in the slurry bucket where all the water is at. So what I usually do on this one is, if you have one of these wheels, you can actually take this bat off. I'm going to take the bat off. You can actually take the splash pan off right here, and I can help you put it back on. Get both hands, and then you just pull it up at like an angle like this. This pops off. I put my hand right here, grab right here, and just kind of pull towards my body. And then you have all this stuff. And I can just take this, scoop them. I would walk over to the slurry bucket, and I could grab all this stuff and just kind of toss it in here to make it easier to clean. And you just toss the entire thing. Even the ball of clay you might have grabbed, you know, to make those coils for the to hold it on. You can just throw it in there. That's fine. And then it's just a quick way. And you could even wash this in the sink if you wanted to. And you might notice that your area here is super dirty. So it's just it takes a little longer cleaning it this way, but you're a lot more thorough. And I'm not sure if you ever tried to get inside of here, but that's how you take it apart. Otherwise, same concept. Stick it back in. You gotta kind of jam that in there. This would go down at an angle. Click that in place, and then she's assembled again. So I'm gonna get this cleaned up and be done. So hopefully you learn that. Good luck on your project, and do not go through your plate. Thank you very much.